Well, hello and everybody. Want to welcome you to an FM software webinar. I guess this is the first FM software webinar we've done. We've done FM Town, FM Training, but this is our first FM software webinar. Functional blood chemistry analysis software is what we're releasing today. This is an online blood chemistry software that helps you work more efficiently and effectively by providing you with advanced patient reporting and charting. So I want to start out with a little bit of history about my background as it relates to functional blood chemistry analysis. That's my beautiful mugshot up there on the screen. I was first introduced to functional blood chemistry analysis back in 1995. I was in my second year of naturopathic medical school. And my friend Scott Ferguson and I, the guy I ended up writing the book with, he and I attended a seminar by a gentleman called Harry Eidner. And it was a weekend that blew my mind. We were already studying lab science at that time, and I remember thinking, gosh, everything we're learning here about blood chemistries are all related to diseases and those types of clinical conditions, but nothing's really telling us about the health of our patients. So we go to this seminar, and Harry Eidner, I don't know if any of you have ever studied with him, he didn't have PowerPoint, he just gave us a big, thick, spiral-bound manual, and we sat down almost in the round, and he pulled up a chair. I almost think that he was smoking a cigar at the time, but I don't think he was. Anyway, he started talking to us about what type of information you can get from a blood test, and it completely blew my mind. So for the next 2.5 years, as I was working in clinic, I began implementing and working with his form of analysis and started asking questions to old-time doctors and really was thirsty for knowledge. When I graduated in '98, I moved to Ashland, Oregon, and I worked with a chiropractic ND down here in Ashland, and he too taught me an enormous amount about blood testing. And from that world, I really got to see that blood testing is a complicated and difficult topic for a lot of people. And there were no decent reference manuals at that time, so I took it upon myself to write what I think has become a well-known reference book on blood chemistry analysis from a functional perspective. And from then started teaching, started doing a lot of research and writing, was on the road a lot, teaching seminars. In 2010 I was on the road a lot, and I've had the opportunity to talk to hundreds and hundreds of practitioners about blood testing. And funnily enough, on my travels and on the many emails that I get regarding my work in functional blood chemistry analysis, I can say the biggest question I've gotten has nothing to do with, what does glucose mean or what does this ratio mean. The biggest question I've really gotten is, when are you going to create some software? Your books are great, but when am I going to have an opportunity to put your work through a software program? Everywhere I went, I was getting this. It was like, those car trips you take with the kids. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? It was like, when are you going to have software? Any software yet? Blood chemistry software, please. This is great, but do you have software? And ultimately, is the software ready yet? Well, I felt a sense of responsibility to all the people who follow my work. The people who have bought my books, who have attended seminars, who have valued the information and services I provide. So really began to pay attention. Why is software so important? Blood chemistry analysis in and of itself generally brings with it a set of significant problems that have to be overcome. So I want to go through some of those. And specifically, here's why functional blood chemistry analysis is complicated. It's time-consuming. If you're doing this manually, and those of you who know what I mean, the tracking forms, the tracking of this information manually takes up a lot of time. Then you have to start putting the pieces of the puzzles together, using pieces of paper and drawing lines for your patients. So it's very, very time consuming. You have to be pretty knowledgeable. It's a vast knowledge base, and it takes a long time to become an expert. It has a high barrier to entry. You don't get good results until you're pretty skilled. I know there are people out there who can jump in and start looking at blood tests, but it's kind of a little bit like, astrology. It's complicated, and you need to know what you're doing. There's also multiple interconnected variables, and by that I mean there are, a standard blood test maybe have 26 to 30 elements on a chemistry screen, and then you add in the CBC and the hematology. And you have to look at the interconnectedness between those different variables. And if you don't know what the patterns are and you don't have good tools, it can take up a lot of your time. And then finally, I think in and of itself, it's inherently complicated. And so, I remember back to the days when I was at school, even with Harry Eidner's book, I would spend hours. I remember sitting in the clinic conference room outside of the clinic, waiting to go in and see a patient and having books open and charts open and tracking forms that I created to try and track all these numbers and looking at, writing the different up and down arrows and all that type of stuff. It just takes up a lot of time. And the average practitioner is trying to make sense of all of this, and so that kind of experience led me to write my book, and obviously has led me on my journey to where I am now. Well, I knew at that time that there were programs out there, software programs, so I had to see for myself, why are these software programs not meeting the needs of our practitioners? And here's what I found out. If any of you have read our blog over at Bloodken Software, you know that we wrote a blog post called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So a lot of this has been already talked about. But I wanted you to talk about this in the concept of what's out there for you to be able to use. So the first type of program that we came across was overly simplified. They take the route of basically being a glorified Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and no joke. Really sorts the results into highs and lows according to some mathematical equations, spits out a couple of good-looking charts. If you've got the knowledge base to be able to work with something like that, that's great because it sorts out all the results for you. But in terms of being able to really use the software effectively, it doesn't do a very good job. On the other hand, we have what is probably most commonly out there as the overcomplicated. This software takes the approach of being so complicated it almost doubles as NASA's second launch center. For those of you who are using software right now, you might know what I'm talking about. Advanced sets of arrays and variables that not only confuse the practitioner, but definitely confuse the patients as well. A lot of these software programs are hard to present the information to the patient. And that's really the crux of this. Your communication to the patient about their blood test results is very, very important. If you have a tool that doesn't allow you to do that, creates more questions than answers, that's a big problem. Again, following on from that point, 50-plus pages of detailed reports, ultimately extremely confusing to the patients. They walk out scratching their heads.
And I think this was something we were seeing time and time again when we were out there looking at software. You were bringing in reports to show to me that were just so complicated. They would have the patient either trying to do their own research and verify that this is correct, or leading them down a road of confusion. So,
yeah, you don't want a confused patient, especially if they're paying for a product. Absolutely. And a lot of these software programs had a high barrier to entry. They were inherently expensive, and expensive to buy into, also expensive to use if you're being charged $48, $50 for every report that you're running through their software program. Also, and again, a lot of these software programs have ulterior motives. And by that, I mean the software itself becomes the loss leader, because really the hidden agenda behind it is that they want you to use the software to sell more of their supplements. These software programs prioritize treatment protocols over superior analytical results. So here's another story. Obviously, I realized that there was software out there, so I started to use it. I signed up for some of these services myself, and trust me, because I didn't have to go, if I didn't have to go to the expense of creating my own software, I really didn't want to have to. So I wanted to see if there was something out there that could really work. So let's talk about the oversimplified ones first. The first software that I used was incredibly simple, and basically, anybody who knows Microsoft Excel could have created the software in about 2 or 3 hours. So why was I paying $297 for the privilege? Then came the software that was extremely complicated. Generated 50 pages, glossy reports, had bell curves and meaningless abbreviations. Why do you need to create an acronym for something that nobody's ever really talking about? Seriously, I looked at one of these the other day, and I showed it to Shields, and I said, just take a look at this. Imagine you're a patient, and look at this software, report and tell me what you think. And you looked at it and said, I have no idea what this means. And I said, I don't have any idea what it means either, and I've been studying this stuff for 15 years. So I don't really know what they're thinking. These software's spitting out overly detailed advanced reports that, as I said earlier, you give those reports to your patients and they become overly confused. They're starting to ask you questions, maybe beginning to question your judgment, and definitely don't answer what the heck's going on. So, when I found out, led me to bring the question of building my own software high up on my list. But any of you who know me about my products and books and services that I do, that I take a big pride and responsibility to not put out inferior products. So this is a photograph of Steve Jobs, and Shields recently put me on to Steve Jobs' biography. So I'm reading that right now. And for anyone who knows anything about the history of how Apple rose to be #1 in the world, knows that Jobs went to extremes to ensure that his products were always the best, always giving back more to the consumer than they expected, and far exceeding anything his competitors could create or even imagine. Apple has led the pack, and everyone else is following in their wake, which is why, they are, I don't know if they are right now, but at some point they have been the #1 most valuable company in the world. So if I was going to build a functional blood chemistry software program, it would have to be great, and I would have to have a great team of people around me to help me do it. So here's what I imagined a software program would look like, and Shields and I sat down and talked about this a couple of years ago. He said, Dicken, I've heard you talking about software, let's get it done. And the time was right, and so I sat down with him, and he said, what would it look like to you? And so here's what it would look like. It would be elegantly simple. One of the things about Apple products, clean lines, simple navigation, nothing more than you need. There is no need for us to put anything in there that is going to cause you to be confused. It has to be intuitive to use. People should be able to figure this out on their own. No complex user manuals, no complex terms, no scratching your head wondering what the heck that graph is telling me about, no weird abbreviations, no acronyms, just straight information that you can use. It has to save you time. I want people to be able to generate immediate results. And I've done this. We've had beta testers in the program. We've done no training with them. We've given them their login, let them into the program. Within 15 minutes, you should be able to be in the software, entered your first patient results, and have your first report generated and be able to sit down with your patient and talk to them. Also, I wanted something that was going to increase efficiency. I realized that the more efficient practitioners are using this tool, the more time that they'll have to spend with patients and also potentially to spend for themselves. And I'm going to read a report from one of our beta testers talking about this whole concept of how much time means to him and how much time has been saved. Basically, we want you in and out of the software with success. The last thing I talked to Shields about is it really has to help the practitioners succeed. You succeed when the value you receive can be passed on to both yourself and your patients. So how do we provide value? We're going to train you how to use this. We're going to show you how to make money. We're going to keep it affordable, and we're going to give you the greatest opportunity to make money using this particular tool. So in summary, you need a software program that's easy to use, online-based, 24/7 access, makes your job easier, saves you time, helps you create income in your clinic, informs your patients, and keeps you as the functional medicine expert.
When going back to that point of saving the user time and being able to log in within 15 minutes and enter the patient information and get the report, I think the misconception there could be that it's simple, but the background of how the software is running is so amazingly complex and powerful, and it's actually been something we've had to tone down a little bit. Just so that we have really delivered on the results. So when you're having this experience, don't come under the illusion that it's not an amazing product running it, just like an iPad. The real beauty is in the simplicity of this, and you'll begin to experience that when you see this working.
So obviously, you know, creating this wasn't easy. We've been in the creation phase for a year and a half.
Maybe we talk a little bit about Shane.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we did was we interviewed programmers. For those of you who've created software, having a good programmer is absolutely the most amazing thing if you can find them. We found probably the most reliable, the most incredible programmer on the planet, and we didn't find him in the US. We had to go down to New Zealand to find him, and he was a transplanted Canadian down in New Zealand. His name's Shane Redlick, and Shields found him.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, you know, working with programmers, trying to take an idea and then make it into software. You can always end up on two sides of the fence where it becomes overly complicated. You've got to have communication between the practitioner, where Dicken was talking with Shane, and these guys hit it off where Shane was helping improve this software and dial it in. So we as a team really had a great experience, and you'll see this when we start to demonstrate.
The software is very elegant. I really like that term. So creating it wasn't easy. It took a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. But, you know, we got it done. So we want to shift gears now from just sort of talking about it. I want you to put your seatbelts on. We're going to show you how I use the new functional blood chemistry analysis software. I've got Shields here, too, to help cover any area of the software that I may be missing. I'm probably going to come at it from a different angle than he would, so we're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit here. So bear with us while we shift over to... So here we go. This is the dashboard, and this is basically where you would always start as you log into the software. We're into my account. This is kind of my testing account where I look at clinical cases. So they don't have real patient names on them, and I've dialed in this a little bit so that we can look at some cases together. So ultimately, we wanted you to have basically 4 choices when you come in. You're either going to have a lab test sitting on your desk that you've already have a patient in the system and you want to add it to a patient account. You may have a new patient with a blood test that you want to enter into the account. You may want to come in and just simply generate reports, or you may want to just come in and view your patient. So we wanted to give you 4 easy choices. On the dashboard too, something that Shields wanted to build into this was this whole concept of scheduling. If you can schedule tests in advance and be reminded when they're coming, you can maximize the profitability and the patient advantage too by following up in a timely manner. So I'm going to come in now. I've already got patients in here, so I'm going to come in. I want to generate reports. So a couple of ways I can do this: hit this button to generate reports, or go to the report center itself. I've got this basically easy choice. Who's the patient that I want to look at? I want to look at John Doe, number 1. Which blood test do I want to look at? Well, I want to look at the latest one that we did here on June 8th of this year. So this then drops down our report center. And what you can see right away, if you're looking in the right place, is we've built this software to be able to accommodate anybody anywhere in the world, whether they're running US-based labs or whether they're running labs in standard international units. Most, if not all, of the software programs out there are very US-centric. They ignore the fact that the rest of the world actually has completely different reference ranges. So one of the things that Shane was able to do for us is build a software program that is freely conversant in standard international units and conventional US units, which is great for those people in the UK, Australia, Canada, outside of the US. So here we are. What I want to do is going to give you a quick run through here, show you what the inside of the report center looks like. We have a series of 8 different reports. It wasn't just good enough to give you practitioner reports. We wanted to give you patient reports as well.
And that was a big decision for us to do. You know, we know that when you're out there working with your patients, the data that you're looking at and the data that they're looking at needs to be different.
Absolutely. The things that I built into this software program that I want only you to look at, which is why these 2 reports down here, do not give these to your patients. If I find anybody has given these to their patients, you're going to be locked out of the software. No, I don't know, but no, don't. The reason being is that they're too complicated. It's too much information. You want to be perceived as the expert. Don't give away all your secrets. hold something back that's, that you can understand and you can put into a right order and that type of thing. So these two reports I'll show you in a few minutes, but ultimately these are practitioner-only reports.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things I want to point out is if you look at the streamline look, it's pretty straightforward. You're not going to get lost right here. So why don't you take it from there?
Okay, so I want to run you through very quickly the 8 different reports that we've got. The out of optimum range report basically is a nice little written narrative about every element that is outside of the optimum range, high or low. This is a great report to give to your patients. It talks a little bit about what that element is. It's written in language that they can understand, and it also gives them an idea of what you might be looking at for highs and lows. The blood test results is your standard result, basically showing you the results from the optimum, high and low, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. There's a few things I really love about this report. Again, Shane was able to take this and run with it, so we'll talk about that in a few minutes. One of the things I think is really, really important, and I've stressed this a lot in my seminars, is the whole concept of history. We need to look for improvement. And one of the only ways to do that in using blood testing is to look at tests side by side. So this blood test history allows you to view the last 7 blood tests side by side, highlighting elements that are outside the optimum ranges. So you can quickly see when there is improvement or worsening in a particular element on the blood test. This deviation from optimal is a really nice report. Basically, what we did is we allows us to look at blood tests with elements as far deviated from the median as possible. Elements at the top are the furthest high, the elements at the bottom are the furthest low. This is really nice when you're looking at risk factors. For instance, cardiovascular risk factors. There's about 17 different independent risk factors, so you can quickly see how many of those risk factors are on the high list and how many on the low. And it's just a nice report to work with your patients. I think one of the most powerful pieces that I built into this, and this is part of just working with a great team, is this whole concept of the index. Indexes are around us all the time. Indexes really allow us to be able to take a snapshot of the health in 20 separate indices, and I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes as well. And then I also wanted to do a nutrient index. The blood test is great for looking at nutrients, be they vitamins, minerals, hydration, protein, carbohydrate, and fat ratios, but also looking at individual deficiencies as well. And then wanted to give you an opportunity to look at specific clinical dysfunctions that the blood test tells you about. If you just gave this report to your patients, I think it would be kind of confusing to them. And then what to look for when values are out of range. This is a report that lists basically for any high or low elements what conditions that you might want to consider, and then gives you the clinical pattern associated with that. So enough of my talking. I want to jump right in here and look at the practitioner report for blood test results. So what this tells me, and I'm just going to orient you this a little bit. Basically, we've got 4 columns that we're looking at. We're looking at the current blood test values. We're looking at the last blood test values. This is really nice to be able to do a very quick comparison. And then we're looking at whether or not we've got improvement or worsening in that particular element as well. And then you can look at the particular units, and then we've got optimum range and standard ranges as well. So the red means that the patient is above the reference range, yellow is below. 2 arrows indicates that they're above the standard range. 1 arrow indicates that they're above the optimum range or below the optimum range. So if I was looking at this blood test here, even though the glucose value is still above the optimum reference range, there's still some improvement here. They've gone from 91 to 89. This is very nice. It's not going the whole way, but if you've put this person on a blood sugar regulation protocol, that shows a little bit that they're kind of moving in the right direction. Coming down here, you can see all the different values. You can print this report up, have it available to walk the patient through and let them know what's going on with their blood tests.
So I'd like to know how having this report has changed how you work with it, with the blood chemistry now.
So, with this report would have taken me about 15 minutes to generate. I wouldn't have been able to put the history in there. I would have probably done up and down arrows, manually added this in. This took me about 5 minutes to input this data into the system. The previous lab test was already in there. So how this has changed my life is time. Extraordinary time saving. Now, it's not only about generating this report, it's about generating all of the reports. But what I like about this particular report is, too, the very quick being able to see whether or not there is improvement from a previous lab test. This whole concept of scheduling future lab tests is about seeing whether your patients are going in the right direction. So, this is a lot of numbers, a lot of figures. It might tell you something if you're looking at it and you know blood tests, but it's just a way that you can sit down with your patients and go, hey, this is what we're finding. And, yeah.
Yeah, and the reports are available online and also as downloadable reports that you can then print out.
Yeah, once you've added a lab test, you can generate as many reports as you want on that lab test. We don't charge you any more for that. It's just built into the cost of the program. So I'm going to back out of here. I'm going to go back to the report center. I'm now going to take a look at the blood test history report just to show you kind of what that looks like. Very similar. If you can imagine, if there were 7 lab tests here, you'd have all of them built over time. And let's go back in now and look at the percent deviation from optimal. Shane loves this report, our programmer. He thinks it's probably one of the most elegant reports. So what this report is telling me is that out of all of the blood test results, this patient's triglyceride level was the farthest high. Their lab result was 101. It was 260% deviated from the median. And then we can look here too. Their free T3 was very high. Cholesterol was getting high too. And then if we scroll down here, DHEA was very, very low and off as 366 degrees off the bottom here, percent off the bottom. Then we can look here at the functional index, and this is kind of one of my favorite reports here. So we have 20 different functional indices, and we wanted to create basically a snapshot of the functional health of your patients based upon their lab test results. So we have an aggregate here of GI function. So what does that tell us about? Digestion, absorption, assimilation, utilization, excretion. And so if a patient's blood test value is really high, you know that there's something wrong in their GI. For instance, I can see from this blood test that there's something wrong here in this patient's immune system. Is that an infection? Is it immune insufficiency? Is there allergies happening that might be causing this? I can also see that this patient's male sex hormone index is pretty high. So I would be taking a look at testosterone and DHEA and those types of things. The blood sugar index is high. So if you had this report printed out, we've got a little bit of written narrative here and just some ideas of kind of how you might want to respond to this patient as well. So bear in mind that this functional index, we might now want to go look at the clinical implications report that's down here, the clinical dysfunctions report. You can also just generate all these reports at once. Wow, we can see here that based on this blood test, this patient's risk for metabolic syndrome is really high, 86%. Their testosterone deficiency is about 80%. Remember that immune issue that was going on? Well, it's either a tug of war between some kind of viral infection or some kind of immune insufficiency. Oftentimes immune insufficiency is a chronic infection that's gone awry and sort of weakened the blood tests. We also see that there's sort of hyperinsulinemia potentially going on. There's endothelial dysfunction and all those types of things. And if we can scroll down here, we can look at some of the nutrients. This patient probably has a DHEA deficiency, bordering on a zinc deficiency, thiamine deficiency, and that kind of thing.
This just looks great, Dicken.
Yeah.
You did a great job on this.
And, when you can sit down with your patient and start, this is for you to have in the back of your pocket. Because if you go back in here, and I'm going to pull up both of those together at the same time, you can sit down with them and go, the blood test is really showing me that there's something happening here in 3 different areas of your body, potentially a 4th. There's blood sugar dysregulation going on, and what I want to show you is kind of what's happening in terms of blood sugar dysregulation. It can be anything from hypoglycemia all the way through to prediabetes, but it's key that we need to work on that area for you too. There's definitely something happening here in your immune system. Either there's a latent viral infection or a bacterial infection. Now you can also take a sneak look back down here and go, oh, well, it's showing me that there's a viral infection and immune insufficiency going on that's probably causing this index here to be off at 89%. So using both of those charts together can be very, very helpful. Let's go take a quick peek at this final one here. This can actually be a very, very lengthy report because it's basically listing all of the very different dysfunctions and conditions that are associated with an increased glucose with a little bit of a pattern information here. So this is something that you should keep for yourself. You don't want your patients walking out with a report that says all of this information. They're just going to go crazy. So yeah, this is a nice report here. And so generally this is kind of the nuts and bolts of how you're going to use your blood testing to generate all sorts of different reports.
I think one point to bring up here that you passed through was that we're not charging extra for generating all these tests. These tests are available for you all to run and play around with and get the results you need.
Okay.
And that's not something that's normal.
Yeah, you know, I just got a service the other day. They were going to charge me $50 to produce this report that I'm going to produce here in about 30 seconds. Basically, this report they were going to charge me $48 for. And believe me, the report that they were going to charge me for, I needed a PhD in how to read bell curve distribution charts and know what the different acronyms were, and so it was not that useful to me. You know, one of the things I really like about this is actually the patient dashboard. So if I want to come in and take a look at an individual patient, so let's go take a look at John Doe. This is the patient dashboard, lists all of your patients. You can search for them. Very easy to find, tells you how many tests you've got in there, how many you've got scheduled, what their gender is, their age, etc. So John Doe is this patient we just took a look at. Again here, nice and elegant. All the information that you need is right here. You want to edit the patient details? It's right here. I want to generate report? Right here. I want to add a new lab test? Right here. I want to view the elemental history snapshot? Right here. I want to look at individual results for these particular tests? I can do it from right here. It gives me a little report of the last test, all the functional indices, all of their nutrient indexes. I want to edit results right here. I want to generate reports right here. I want to schedule a test, or I want to look at the test that I've got scheduled. Oops, I missed out on this one. I now need to contact John Doe and tell him that his retest is overdue. So this system tells you, not only does it tell you here, but if I go to the dashboard, it tells me right here as well. So this is where, if you're not following through and doing repeat lab tests, not only are you not doing a great service for your patient, but you're also leaving money on the table. I mean, we're in this practice, in this business, as a business. We need to be able to make money doing what we're doing. And so this is a great tool for you to be able to do that. Want to add a new lab test? Very easy. First of all, select what patient you want to do it on. What date did that lab test come in on? Well, it came in September 12th. What kind of panel do I want to do? I can make custom profiles in here. I haven't even shown you that bit, but we'll get to that. I want to run a male Quest profile. I want to do it in standard international units, and I want to run the lab test right now. How about I want to schedule a lab test for this guy? Well, I want to schedule one that's going to be in January 1st, 2013. I want to do a default male panel. Save and schedule the test. Now, here it is. January the 1st, 2013. That is now in there. When it goes overdue, I'm going to get prompted. So really a lot of information right off the bat from this dashboard. What else can we show them?
Let's talk about clinical tools.
Oh, clinical tools. Yeah. So most of you know me through the books that I've written and the training materials and stuff. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to give you my blood reference guide here in a format that you can quickly have access to. So let's say you're doing a report and you're thinking, God, I cannot remember what % transferrin saturation rate is. Rather than having to reach for the book, you come over here, open blood reference guide, % transferrin saturation. I can read a little bit about it, what the reference ranges are, when I would run this test, what the highs and lows mean, what the high of that means, any other information. Sorry, Shields is telling me to slow down. Too much Red Bull. No, just joking. So any and all of the elements, and I'm going to be adding more elements in here. Obviously, since I wrote my book, there are about 15 different elements that need to go into the book. Well, this is where they're going to be written first. Also, I wanted to give you, I'm going to tell a little story here. When I first got to naturopathic medical school, 1994, one of the first things that we were sort of introduced to was this concept of a black book. Apparently, the story was that John Bastyr, who is sort of the grandfather of modern naturopathy here in the States, he had this little black book that he carried around with him. It's like a little black notebook. And in that black book, he kept meticulous notes about conditions, about any findings that he had. And it sort of became a tool that we used. And so each of us were encouraged to start our own black book. And so I've got probably 700 or 800 files on my computer that are digital files on health conditions from a functional perspective. And so what I'm going to do, it's a work in progress, is I'm going to basically build into this system here what I call a clinical conditions guide. It's basically my black book for functional medicine and functional conditions. So the one I want to show you here is hypochlorhydria. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding to this clinical conditions guide over time, but for right now you're going to get these conditions in the system. Background information about what hypochlorhydria is, what it's associated with, signs and symptoms. How would you go about diagnosing a patient with hypochlorhydria? Obviously you're in a blood chemistry program, so first up will be findings on a blood chemistry analysis. This is the pattern here that's used to generate the finding for hypochlorhydria. But what about physical exam findings? What about in-office lab testing? I've written books on in-office lab testing, so I'm going to refer you to books that I've written in the hope that you go out and use those in your offices too. Advanced functional medicine testing. So this becomes kind of like a little diagnostic tool that you can use to gather and get more information. What causes hypochlorhydria? List of things that cause it. What diseases are associated with it? And here, what I'm going to do here is start building up kind of a treatment. A lot of you know that I'm not affiliated with a supplement company. This program is not going to generate lists of treatment protocols for you. It's kind of what you need to be doing with your patients. You know your protocols better than I do. But I'm going to give you some ideas of some treatments for things that, from a naturopathic perspective, that you may not know about. And so this will be a great opportunity in the treatments area. So this is kind of like my little black book. This is going to be a work in progress. As long as you're part of the software, you're going to have access to this. I think a really valuable, very valuable tool for you as well. Am I missing anything?
No, I think at some point this will all, we'll be moving into having it working on mobile devices as well. So
yeah, you can imagine, I use an iPod, an iPad. This looks very like an iPad screen in some ways with the rounded boxes and stuff. So that's what we want to do. We want to make the transition to mobile devices. So having this as an app as well. Also, my blood chemistry training is going online. We're in the finishing stages of putting it into its own standalone online training program. And if you join my software, we'll probably give you an opportunity to get discount to get that program as well. The reason why I would encourage you to do the training program comes back to that first point that we were talking about. If you have a good background knowledge in blood chemistry analysis, your ability to use this software only gets better. And so it's an investment in time, investment in knowledge. Once you join the software, join the training program, it's online, 24/7 accessibility. I go through a lot of information in that, not just about blood chemistry, but about a lot of these other things, functional physical exam findings, in-office testing. It's a wonderful, wonderful 18-hour training program, basically a weekend training program online for you.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to hear you talk more about was your own process working with the software and seeing how powerful it was and going, oh my gosh, we've created this Lamborghini here, we got to tone it down a little bit. You'd run out of the office telling me how incredible it was, and just knowing that we have created a tool, but there's still a responsibility that comes along with that we really need great practitioners putting this to use, and we need to use this wisely.
Yeah, anytime you have a tool like this in your hands, you can be potentially problematic. And I'll tell a little bit of a story here. One of our beta testers came in early in the stage here, and he got on the phone with me and was talking about how powerful the program was, but it was too powerful. He said there's too much information here that the patient really doesn't need to know about. And so he and I talked, and we talked to Shane and Shields, and we kind of dialed back some of that and pushed it into another area, but then increased the functionality of the reporting that you can give to your patients. And so it's really important that this doesn't become a substitute for your brain. There's no point doing that. If this simply generated a report that a patient could get, I could probably make a heck of a lot more money, or we can make a lot more money, by making it available directly to patients. I don't want to do that. That's a disservice to them, and it's very much a disservice to you. So you have to have a brain involved in this process. And part of that brain is the knowledge piece. It's why, the training program in some ways is a very, very important part of this. But you have to have a brain, because the software is going to find things based upon, straight yes or no answers. It's got an algorithm that it's following, and sometimes it's not 100% correct.
And there's no emotion in it.
And there's no emotion. I also remember talking to one of the beta testers. They were looking at a case, and it says, the software's telling me that this patient has renal insufficiency. I know this patient. They don't have renal insufficiency. So I listened to him for a while, and then he said to me, I said to him, well, could you be open to the possibility that your patient might have renal insufficiency? And he said, well, show me why. And so I brought up the blood tests on the program, and I pointed here, 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 and here. And what was probably throwing him off was that one value for renal insufficiency wasn't super high, but it was high enough to make that a case for renal insufficiency much greater. So we have the things that we like to look at. I love the GI. I love blood sugar dysregulation. So some of my focuses when I do blood chemistry analysis are on those areas. I forget about the immune system. I forget about the adrenals. So what I'm finding in doing this is that, oh boy, adrenal insufficiency comes up a lot more than I would have done if I'd been doing it by hand. So those are some of the ways that I've been really using that. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of switch out of here. I want to go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Hold on here. Because, like I said, we had beta testers in here, and we gave them an opportunity to test drive. So I wanted to hear about some of the stories that they have, and I want to share those with you as well. Over the past 6 to 8 months, we've had people in the software helping us. We've run hundreds of clinical tests with our beta test team. We've been pushing the software. We've been, really trying to break it. As Shane says, go out and try and break the software. So revision after revision, we pushed the envelope. We wanted to make it better, and so I wanted to share with you a couple of stories from some of the beta testers that we had in the system. The first is Dr. Stuart Hoover. Dr. Hoover practices in Missouri. And he wrote me a long letter about his experience. So I'm going to take an opportunity now to read this. He says, I'm so grateful to have been involved with the beta testing of your software as it was being refined. For many years, I have felt there was much more we could do with traditional blood testing outside of just diagnosing or ruling out disease. I've always felt that has to be a way to bring allopathic medicine and functional medicine close together. To use something that provides that common ground, a natural bridge for the patient as they enter into the world of functional medicine. In our field, there are so many different assessment tools that provide some insight as to the patient's health status, but many times can be confusing, very subjective, or simply hard for the patient to grasp. I have found if we cannot engage and gain that trust or buy into what we do from the patient right out of the gate, it is going to be an uphill battle. When I first came across functional blood chemistry analysis years ago, I felt that this was that tool, that bridge I was looking for, that common ground that the patient felt comfortable with. I can't tell you how appreciative my patients are when I take out the same lab test that their allopathic physician is using and just make sense out of it for them from a functional health standpoint. I have to admit it was quite a struggle for me in the beginning. I hadn't found Dr. Weatherby yet. So I fumbled through reports and was using a different software system at that particular time. I just never felt that it gave me that total functional state of health picture I was looking for. Well, that has all changed when I found Dr. Weatherby's books on functional blood chemistry. Within the first hour of reading his book, I knew I had found that expertise I needed to really engage myself and my patients to what their blood chemistry was really telling us about their functional state of health. I believe I called and emailed Dr. Weatherby the next day asking about putting a software program together. His quick response was, "It's in the works." Well, that was over a year ago, and it is so true. Good things come to those who wait. This program, by far, is the most comprehensive functional health tool I have ever used in my practice and has become my gold standard of assessments in my practice. Not only am I getting that comprehensive look at my patient's functional health status, but it provides better direction when determining what other assessments are needed. From a business standpoint, this has increased our revenue considerably. We have seen a steady increase in referrals from our patients not only in our local area, but I'm now doing several phone consults a day with patients from all around the country. The word is out, and it has truly changed the dynamics of our practice. We now have that tool that bridges the gap for the patient between allopathic medicine and functional medicine, bringing the best of both worlds together for the patient. I feel that we are now bringing healthcare back into what used to be a healthcare system, but has sadly turned into a disease care system today. This will put functional medicine on the map and in the mainstream where it belongs. All the best in health and success, Dr. Stuart Hoover from the Essential to Health Advanced Natural Health Center in Springfield, Missouri. So I'm really grateful to Dr. Hoover. He was a wonderful person to work with. But I have another testimonial I want to read now from a friend of mine, friend and colleague from the United Kingdom. I've known Jonathan Cohen for a number of years, and he's been a close follower of my work. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a quick drink. I was in London teaching at a cardiovascular seminar about this time last year, actually, and Jonathan came up to me and he said, "Dicken, we've got to get a software program. It's taking me so long to do this analysis. I can't take all that time, but it's so good, but I'm still doing it." I said, "Jonathan, software is in the works." So he has been very helpful with us. I just wanted to read a little bit of what he had to say. "I have no financial or other vested interest in the software that is being developed by Dr. Weatherby. I've been studying and using his blood chemistry protocols for over 6 years and had been waiting for the opportunity to test the software for a number of years. Recently, I had the pleasure of being involved in the beta testing of this software, and I use the word pleasure advisedly, as previous to this, I would have had to take all of the data and enter these onto a spreadsheet and cross-correlate and correlate my findings. This process would invariably take me well over an hour and may, depending on the complexity, take me 2 hours or more to establish a significant set of results. Of course, I would have to be flicking backwards and forwards through the reference materials available, i.e. books and online material, and then make sense of my elaborate scrawls on my worksheets. Let us not forget the client presentation aspect as well. My experience of the software is such that I found that entering the information takes me no more than 10 to 15 minutes at the most, and then a few seconds or so for the processing of the data. After that, the results are so elegantly presented in written and graphic form that I suggest no more than a maximum of 20 minutes has elapsed from start to finish with as much data and report as one could want. Not forgetting that all the reference materials are here and accessible mouse clicks away. Simply marvelous. I have used this for full tests to the examination of liver function, and the latter showed depressed liver function and possible fatty liver development, all in the space of a minute or two. Clearly, this is a massive time saving and offers so much to any practice as an add-on service or simply to leave additional valuable time to devote to one's patient, a win-win situation all round. In my opinion, it is important that users should study the materials, even though they can just step in and are ready to roll. The better the understanding, the easier to determine the results and distinguish between suggestions made from the algorithms used in the software. Having said that, it is my opinion that the use of this software makes blood analysis as equally relevant as other functional test examinations, including organic acids or stool analysis, and at a price considerably less than these test costs. And I believe that this should be always used in the assessment of patients. I look forward to seeing the software being at the forefront and only can suggest its use. A great piece of work, Dicken. Jonathan Cohen, nutritional therapist and member of the British Association of Nutritional Therapists in England. So given that, I think it's important to kind of point out here that I think that, you know, we've cracked the code for you by developing a truly awesome software product that is not only going to revolutionize how you practice functional medicine, but also is going to change how you approach and work with all your patients. You know now that the beta testers have had a chance to test drive the car, but rather than just open up the racetrack for anyone and everyone to come in and drive the Ferrari, we need at this point to take the utmost care to ensure that you succeed. So I've discussed a number of times, and Shields and I in this presentation, this is serious software. Whenever you have a diagnostic tool like this that really can put out a report, it can change lives, for better or for worse. You give your patients too much information and it can be quite damaging to them. But if you put the right amount of information in their hands, it can be truly miraculous. And so we need to put some controls onto how this software program gets out into the world and who gets to use it. So what we're doing right now, rather than just making it, you know, open for everybody, we're entering what we're calling our founder level release phase 1. So what does that mean? We're looking for 200 serious practitioners. And by that we mean practitioners who want to succeed. So I'm going to be kind of rude here. If you're not serious about doing blood chemistry analysis and doing the work that you need, don't sign up, because we're looking for serious people who want to get really excellent clinical tools in their hands and want to seriously help their patients and truly also make money as well. So we're doing a 1-week enrollment. We're going to do 1 week. We have a big list of people. Obviously, you guys on this call and listening to this video are the first on the list. So we're doing a 1-week enrollment. We are going to close the enrollment, and then we're going to open the software. The software will be open October 24th. You will be sent your login and user information at that particular time. And then begins what we're calling 16 weeks of software training. So what do we mean by that? As I said earlier, we're interested in serious practitioners who want to get results. So we're serious about helping you get the most out of this tool. Our responsibility is going to be to help you succeed. We don't want people to come in, buy the software, go out and crash and burn. That's not what we created this for. We wanted it to really help people help their patients as well. So there are 3 ways to get the software. So I'm going to transition right now, if we can, over to sort of pricing sheet, and I'm going to look at what people are going to be getting. So here's a web page that we created, basically showing you the various different levels of service. So we're doing a founder member. We're into getting 200 spots. And so there are 3 levels of service that will be open to people. One is the starter level. Starter level for those people that are just new to testing, maybe don't have a lot of clients that they're doing right now. And what this does for $65 a month, and we bill every 3 months, so you get 12 tests a month. You can run 12 tests a month, and if you break it down per test, that's a cost of about $5.41 per test. Now, if you think about some of the other programs out there that are charging you $48 for 1 report, you can see that for just 1 patient, you've kind of covered that. You don't get the opportunity to add additional users. Blood chemistry training is not involved, and it doesn't support group practices. It has a fairly sizable database size, but you get all of the custom report center, you get all the blood test result forms, you get the reminders, etc.
And you can generate the reports as many times as you want.
Yeah, you can. In fact, you can put as many patients in here as you want. You could use this as a little patient database. You don't have to. We don't charge you per patient. We charge you on how many tests you're running. Basically, you get 12 tests a month. If you want to add more, go ahead and add more. You can do that as well. Right now, what we're doing here is we have a silver level membership. That's kind of for the intermediary practice. You get to run 25 tests a month. It costs you about $99 a month. Breaks down to about $3.96 a test. But what we're doing here in this founder level member, we're going to take you your silver account and automatically upgrade it to gold for life. So what does this mean? For as long as you're in the software program, as long as the software program is around, you are going to be billed $297 every 3 months, and you're going to be able to run 50 lab tests a month. So that drops your per test cost to about 50 cents a test. You get 50 tests for $99 a month. It works out at about 50 cents a test. You also get the opportunity to have 2 users, so if you're in a joint group practice, you can add another user to your account as well. You get up to 1 gigabyte of data. You can add thousands of patients into the system. You're never going to overwhelm our data system. And you're going to get all of these as well. So what you're doing is you're getting gold level service at a silver level price for life.
Let's go to the chart.
So I want to show you here, so just a little run through here. You're going to get 50 lab tests instead of 25. You're going to get gold level locked in for life, 52 cents a test instead of $3 a test, get 2 user accounts, etc. So what does this mean in terms of potential income? One of the things that we're going to talk about in our training is how you can monetize blood testing. But for right now, here's a little chart that we put together. Feel free to take a look at it, work it out. But really, if you came in at the silver level and you're going to get 25 tests a month and your cost is $3.95 per test, you can sell each test for $100. I've seen it. I've done it over and over and over again. This is $100 of profit that you're getting from that patient for the report that you're giving, be it consultation time, be it a report that you're going to hand them. So your profit margin per test is $96.05. So you can immediately see it's going to cost you $97 a month to be at this level. You do 1 test, and you've paid for the use of the software. If you do all 25 tests a month, you're going to make $2,400. If you only did 50%, you'd make $1,200. If you did 10%, that's 2.5 tests a month, you'd make $240. But what we're going to give you is the gold account for the silver price. You're going to get 50 tests a month. So if you did all 50, your profit margin is $4,850. If you only did 25, $2,425. $970 if you only did 10 tests a month. So obviously the amount that you charge varies. Obviously this doesn't include the cost of the actual lab test itself. We'll talk about that in our income training that we'll include in the training program for the software itself. And so just to recap here, we are offering you an opportunity to get gold level service at a silver level price. So if you want to join right now, you can join for $99 a month, and we bill every 3 months. So $297 will be charged now, and then it'll be every 3 months you'll be charged $297, and you'll get 50 tests a month and all access to the program as well. Anything I've missed here?
You know, I think that the one thing with software, any software that you use, we want to. Part of our goal here is really to find a way to enrich your guys' lives. We really don't want people coming in and just playing with the software and then leaving. We'd prefer you just don't spend your money if you just want to try it. I mean, we really want serious practitioners who want to take this opportunity seriously. We really want to support you. That's why we've narrowed down the next phase of our software development to 200 practitioners that we can really place our attention on, help cultivate, and take things to the next level with. And I think that Dr. Hoover would give us feedback. We were very receptive to making this the best software possible. And when we have close groups of founding members, like we did with FM Town, like we are here with the blood chemistry software, it gives us an opportunity to create great things. And we've really had that opportunity in working together because we're a small team. We can implement quickly. We don't have a lot of red tape to cut through. And I think the end result is benefit for everyone. So I think my point in saying this is the process of becoming a member is, we really want long-term relationships with you guys. We want to provide a service that when you have to pay that bill every month, you know that it's paid for itself 10 times over or even more. There's no hard sell here. We have a great service, and we would love to have you on board with this.